Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
What is this? Hey! Hi, everybody.
What are we doing? Why are we here?
Why is any of us here?
Who can say?
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Prisoners.
Prisoners!
Where are your sisters?
I can't find them.
Anna? Joy?
Wait, I checked the entire house. They're not here.
Dad, there was this RV and they were playing on it. We thought there was someone inside.
You wait here. Let me go.
I couldn't find them! Detective Loki.
Do you have children, detective?
I'm gonna find your daughter.
Prisoners. Hey.
Prisoners.
Hey. Big thank you. Hey. Big thank you to Ricky Pickles. Thank you,
hell
Ricky.
yeah. Oh, that's a name.
Ricky Pickles. Thank you so much. Ricky Pickles gave us a list of movies, and we chose Prisoners because... Why did we choose Prisoners, Tom?
I don't know. We got a list of stuff, so we picked Prisoners.
Yeah, because it's a good movie.
Because this movie rules. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the huge
Ackman. Being just as grizzled as fuck. Real hardcore libertarian.
Yes. And he's just doing Wolverine, like the voice.
Basically.
He's alternate reality Wolverine.
Yeah.
It's got Terrence Howard, Viola Davis. It's got Paul Dano, whatever. Jake Gyllenhaal.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Melissa Leo.
Denis Villeneuve. It's
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, it's the director of
Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, director of Dune, man. If people haven't seen this movie, this is kind of like this director. I wish
this is his best movie, right?
It might be, yes. Well, I really like this. To me, this is the So first of all, I didn't realize this is the same year as Enemy, which is wild to me. Enemy feels earlier, but this, and in fact, I think Enemy technically came out later. This is around. So what happened with this director, in my opinion, is he was making some wild shit. Some very grounded's the wrong word, but like human stories. And then he did Arrival, which I like Arrival.
Yeah, Arrival was good.
I watched it again recently. And then Hollywood was like, let's give you all the stuff. So then he got Blade Runner, he got Dune, he's doing Cleopatra. And Prisoners is the type of movie that's like, I hope he comes back to this.
Me too. Yeah, this is a really expertly made crime thriller, mystery thriller.
Yeah, he kind of, I'm realizing he's like Christopher Nolan without the bullshit in his style. I mean, where like he chooses simpler stories.
Yes.
Like even Arrival, I would argue, is a simpler story than the bullshit that Christopher Nolan tries to pull.
Yeah, it's not as, even Arrival is not as plot driven.
Yeah. Like you look at Tenet and you're like, like Christopher Nolan often makes movies where it feels like a kid inventing a board game. Yeah. Where it's all these rules and like things and you're like, I can't keep up, man.
Right. And the main character is just a flat plank of wood floating down this river.
Yeah. And look, I love a lot of Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, so do I. And he has made, Christopher Nolan has made great films. Nobody can take that away from him. It's just, I think he has never been terribly good at human stories. And like Denis Villeneuve feels like he has that ability.
Yes. And he also just keeps it a little simpler.
Yeah.
And so my point is that this kind of reminds me of Insomnia in that it's like his one movie that's just like a movie, you know? That's just like, yeah, I'm just doing like a crime movie. You know,
well, Nolan has Dunkirk, which is just like a war movie.
Oh, that's true. Well, I would argue a war movie is very big.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
It's war. Like, you know what I mean? Where it's
but it's not like it's not high concept. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
They're comparable directors only because their tones are similar, but they're not. You know, you can tell the difference between their movies.
But beyond that, they're not at all similar. It's just I think we made the comparison because they're both directors that started out making very auspicious films that then got recruited by the Hollywood machine, and now they're cranking out blockbusters.
Yeah. Also, I would say that they do look like there's similarities in their style. You know, like everything. Their color tones are often the same. They're both very serious in in how they present the films. Anyway, we don't have to talk about that. Prisoners is so I guess if you haven't seen it, go fucking see it.
Go watch it. It's on Hulu. It's been on Hulu forever.
I watched it on Blu-ray.
Oh yeah, if you own it, yeah, that's the best way. But if you have a Hulu subscription, it's there. Just watch it. It's good. So it's very good.
Yeah, it's Wolverine torturing the Riddler.
Sure.
Yeah.
It is that.
So it's about two fathers. One of them is clearly like a doom prepper libertarian type. And
the other one is just very suburban. Like there's a all right.
Yeah, they're neighbors.
I'll save that. Let's just get to the plot first.
Right. They're like circumstantial friends. It feels like they live down the street. Like it feels like they probably met through their kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's just all I was gonna say is we very quickly see the difference between the two families just by looking at their houses.
Yes. And so it's Thanksgiving, and they're all getting together, and they both have like two pairs of kids the same age.
Yeah.
They got like teen kids, and then they got two little girls. And they go for a walk. They see a camper. And then they're just hanging out doing Thanksgiving. The two little girls one of them wants to show the other her emergency whistle.
She lost it. She wants to find it.
And they're like, yeah, take your brother with you. And they don't ask the brother. They go off on their own and they go missing. And
sure do.
About this 5-6 day period in which these two kids are missing. And Hugh Jackman goes, let's say, off the rails.
Oh, yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal is Detective Loki, the trickster detective, who is assigned to the case. And they get an immediate suspect named Alex Jones.
Yep, his name is Alex Jones.
Paul Dano, who is clearly a fucking weirdo, and like seems to sort of know, like he runs when the cops first show up. He says something very suspicious to Hugh Jackman. He says they only cried when I left him.
Yeah.
And so like, and he has the mind of a 10-year-old is how they put it. So like, he's not really very good communicator, but he seems to know something. The cops can't do anything though, because there's absolutely no evidence. Mm-hmm. So they let him go, to which Hugh Jackman kidnaps him and begins to torture him in an old, his father's old apartment complex. He brings Terrence Howard involved into it.
Yeah.
And he's sort of like way less into
not
it.
Cool with it. Yeah.
No, Viola Davis, his wife, kind of like pushes it a little bit because the whole idea is like, think of our daughters. Mm-hmm. I would do anything for this.
They even put up a picture of the daughters next to the little cell that they build for Paul Dano. They're just beating his ass, dousing him with alternately scalding and freezing water. They make it very brutal. They don't show much, but it's still brutal. It's like Seven, where it's the brutality, even though it's mostly off screen, is still pretty. Well, it's not a light movie.
No, they do a part where the wife Viola Davis takes off like the bag on Paul Dano's head, and he is just unrecognizable because he's been beaten so bad. So they show enough to know like this is horrible. And Hugh is doing most of the beating. He's spiraling.
He's doing all of it. Like Terrence Howard is
like
holding
him.
That's very deliberate.
Yeah. And it's about it's about a lot of things, but Hugh Jackman basically is spiraling into this brutality in the name of his daughter. Meanwhile, Jake Gyllenhaal is having his own like True Detective adventure, where he's finding all sorts of weirdos.
Yeah,
just all the weirdos.
One of the cool things about this movie is that it's almost two movies. Like it's two completely different storylines about the same mystery.
Yeah. This movie implements two Batman weirdos.
Sure.
What's his name? Polka Dot Man?
Yes, David Dastmalchian.
Yeah, and Paul Dano, who's basically kind of doing the Riddler a little bit. He's more innocent acting.
Yeah,
But this town is this town is haunted by these
abductions. It's been going on for like there's like 20 years, I think, of a couple of unsolved abductions in the area. Right.
And Jake Gyllenhaal is trying to solve the actual case while Hugh Jackman is torturing Paul Dano.
He's just annihilating Paul Dano.
Yeah. And this is where we get into spoilers. It's very True Detective, I would argue. Because Jake Gyllenhaal puts together this web of suspects that turns out that several of them are actually victims, and it's the aunt of Paul Dano who, with her husband, was abducting kids because, quote, they wanted to. I think they're pro Satan. They wanted to fight God.
They wanted to wage war on God. They lost their son to cancer.
Yeah, and so they were creating demons by essentially stealing children from parents and turning them into
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was basically what happens to Hugh Jackman is them winning, as they turning them into a monster. We learn that Paul Dano is the first kid they kidnapped.
Yes.
And so, like, boy, he had it real rough. Hugh Jackman is the one who first discovers this by going over the aunt's house. And she, he comes what he thinks is prepared, and immediately things go bad for him. She takes out a gun. She makes him drug himself. She has him put on handcuffs, and we reveal that like she has this car in the driveway that we've been near several times that has a hole under it. So she throws her Hugh Jackman
Silence of the Lambs pit underneath there.
Yeah, and now she has one free Hugh Jackman. That's free.
Yeah, she's just gonna keep him in there.
Yep, and that's where she had the little girls. Jake Gyllenhaal shows up because they find
he finds Paul
Dano, and Jake Gyllenhaal quickly realizes that this woman is the kidnapper as well.
Yeah, he notices there's mystery threads tying together details that we don't really have the time to go all into. But
I'm not gonna explain all the things.
Yeah.
He notices basically that the necklace of her husband is a maze, which was drawn by Polka Dot Man, which also
was on a dead body in a priest's basement. It's a whole fucking thing. But anyway.
And the priest said this again, it's very True Detective. Yeah. Very True Detective. And so like, I mean, we'll get into it, but yeah. So the Hugh Jackman is buried in this hole. He finds his daughter's whistle that she was looking for. Mm-hmm. Jake Gyllenhaal rescues
her emergency whistle that he got for her and made her carry. That's important.
Yeah. Jake Gyllenhaal rescues the daughter, becomes the hero, and then they're just like, the ending scene is they're at the crime scene, they're digging stuff up, but it's winter at this point. Jake Gyllenhaal and everybody is packing it in for the night, and they're just like, yeah, I guess Hugh Jackman ran away because, he was caught torturing Paul Dano. They just assume he left.
He bailed, yeah.
And Jake Gyllenhaal's just sitting there in the yard, and the last shot is you faintly hear the whistle blowing, and Jake Gyllenhaal like looks around, and he's like, "What the fuck is that?" And then the movie ends.
Yep.
Beautiful movie.
It's a solid film.
Extremely solid film.
Yeah.
We didn't say how do we like it, but it seems like we both very much like this movie.
Oh yeah, I love this movie. I said up top,
I think
it's Villeneuve's best movie.
Oh, I fucking love it.
This movie is so fucking good.
And here's what it is for me personally, is we have this like moral tale with Hugh Jackman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that sounds like that's the plot. But like you said, this movie is 2 different movies, and the other movie is awesome. It's True Detective.
Yeah,
it's like a season of True Detective. So there's so much here. It's a 2.5 hour movie, and it zooms by.
Yeah, it really does.
Because it's just so dense with all this adult detective, rainy, dark, bullshit that I love.
It's fucking great. I was like a pig in slop, just kicking my hooves in the air.
Everybody's doing their best work too.
It's so even Maria Bello, who is normally pretty hit or miss for me.
She's the wife, right?
Yeah, she's Hugh Jackman's wife.
She's killing
the mom.
it.
She has one scene in particular that is just like gives me goosebumps. It's like, God damn, like everyone's like firing on all cylinders in this movie.
She basically reacts to all this the way most parents would, where she just falls apart.
Yeah.
Just falls the fuck apart.
Yeah. And there's one scene in particular, but there's a couple of really just intense scenes of her breaking apart. And it's
she's good.
She's great in this movie.
Yeah, everybody's so fucking good. Paul Dano, like poor Paul Dano. Whenever they're like, "Listen, Paul, we need another weirdo for a film," he's like, "All right, yep,
I got you.
That's me. That's me."
He's made a very good living off of being weirdos.
Yeah, and so like they make it so that he's walking this line. When you realize later that he is just a maladjusted victim, it's like, oh, that makes so much sense, because they show him being like abusive to a dog, and like he seemed so that's part of the thing of this is because both of the suspects turns out to be victims, and what they're pointing out that like it's the war on God. These people are leaving a trail of shit.
Yeah.
And so that's the idea is like, look at like they're winning by turning these people, essentially.
Yeah, by destroying people's faith. There's a lot of things at work here, and it because I mean, obviously
there's a lot,
title,
but it never. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, it never feels like preachy, or it never feels like it lands on a definite moral.
Right. It's not making too many judgments. It's just kind of like, here are all of these circumstances. Like, it never really comes down, even though Paul Dano is revealed to have not been the kidnapper. He didn't do anything. He helped, but like
they
he
say,
also
like he drove them or something.
Yeah, he drove them, or they probably he was probably the one that was able to convince the girls, because he seems nice and harmless, because he's basically a child himself. But like, even though he didn't harm them and couldn't really have told Hugh Jackman anything anyway, it's like the movie never tells you that what Hugh Jackman did was the wrong thing to do, or like, you know what I mean? Because it's like,
no, it's presenting all these like really tough moral
it's complicated,
because Hugh Jackman, guess what? It works. The torturing of Paul Dano ultimately like gets Hugh Jackman to where he needs to be, right? And what they actually frame it as like, also Jake Gyllenhaal wouldn't have been there if it weren't for finding. So like, and the movie is not saying like, oh, it was right.
No,
it's just a series of circumstances.
Yeah, that
it presents, and it's not. It really doesn't want you to draw any conclusion like, oh, I guess torture's good. Like it very much isn't drawing that conclusion.
No, it does not. Like
because
I said,
Hugh
a lot
Jackman,
of. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, because it's not like the torture really works. It's just, again, circumstance.
It's the circumstances of it, yeah. And the movie certainly doesn't shy away. Even though I said most of the torture happens off screen, it's still very, very hard to watch.
You feel it.
Yeah, you feel it. They don't like soften it at all. I think a lot of that is like the title is really kind of ties together a lot of the themes, the idea of prisoners and being imprisoned. Because every character sort of is.
Yeah.
And the movie is kind of you could extrapolate that to tie into that idea of like, it's not really passing judgment. It's just these are a set of circumstances that all these people are stuck in. They are you might say trapped in, like a prisoner. And it's sort of like once you're in, this is kind of how I was thinking about it in that context. Like once you're a prisoner, like once you're on, I don't know, like once you're on death row with a bunch of other people or something like that, it's sort of like when you're on the inside, it stops mattering why you're there. You know what I mean? And it's just, you're here now. And this is, you do what you have to do because this is the situation you're in. How you got here is irrelevant at this point from this perspective. So it's like there's a lot of people doing extreme things in this movie, both, Hugh Jackman, obviously, Jake Gyllenhaal less so, but like Melissa Leo, the bad guy, like what she's doing, and like the Paul Dano and David Dastmalchian, Polka Dot Man, they're also behaving like maniacs, but like it's not like they don't come by it honestly. It's like there's
I mean, Polka Dot Man, sure, the record, it's one of those things that I don't know how realistic his character is, because it's a wild character.
Oh yeah,
because he is a walking red herring. He is a victim of the kidnapping, right? He's like one of the only victims who got away.
Yes.
And the idea is that Jake Gyllenhaal sees him at the memorial, and then they track him down, and he has the victim's clothing. Yeah. And what he doesn't know that we kind of already know, like the movie makes us clear, is that he just broke into their house and took their clothes.
Stole it. Yeah.
And all the blood that they find is pig's blood, because he is just obsessed with recreating the crime, essentially, against him. Like, he is just so fucked up, but it makes him look extremely guilty, because he just has this house full of suitcases with blood in the victim's clothes.
Blood and snakes. He's like the inverse of Hugh Jackman, right? So like Hugh Jackman's whole character is that he's this survivalist guy who's prepared for anything. He's in complete control. And that's like the core of his character. And that's sort of why he spirals the way he does, is because something happened that he wasn't able to stop, and he can't do anything about it.
Yeah, there's a hint of like toxic masculinity, although it's not. A little bit. It's not in your face. They don't make him that kind of person.
He's a little bit that kind of person, but yeah,
but there's a hint of like, a man's supposed to take care of his family, and I'm gonna solve this, and I can't, like, he can't just let the detective do his work, like it's just not in him. He wasn't. Yeah,
and it's that scene one of the scenes that I mentioned where Maria Bello really kills it is when one of the scenes where she's breaking down, and she basically says that to him. He's like,
"Yeah, you were supposed to protect us.
You were supposed to protect all. How could you let this happen? Like you fucked this up." Yeah. And so that's kind of what he's operating from, and then Polka Dot Man's kind of the inverse of that, because this is how he has control over it. Like he keeps drawing these mazes. He's like recreating. It seems like all of the abducted kids, like it's like this is his way of having control over it. So it's like what he does is like he thinks is helping.
Right.
Like they never fully explain what it is he's doing, but it's clearly like ritualistic. There's totems in it, obviously. Like he's taking their clothing, he's covering it in pig's blood, he's putting snakes in there because we learn that they used to torment the kids with snakes. Right. So he's like Hugh Jackman, but in a chaotic way, where it's like he's doing all this because he thinks that's how he's helping, and this is how he has control over this new disappearance. So I don't know where I was going with that, but
no, but you're right. Is that them as like kind of mirror opposites of each other?
Yeah.
It's
there's just so much going.
We haven't even talked about Jake Gyllenhaal and everything he's doing, which apparently was all his ideas, because his character, Detective Loki, it's like, I wish they do this more for characters. He is just covered in things. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like he is built a fully realized person that we never really learn that much about. He has facial tics. He has weird tattoos. He dresses like a scumbag. He has this like slick back. He progressively gets more Skeet Ulrich in his hair. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
A little.
As things fall apart, he gets more Skeet. He skeets slowly.
You can see the Skeet creeping in.
Yeah. You can see that skeet
He's
creeping.
He's a real interesting character.
Yeah, and we don't learn that much about him because it's not really the point.
No.
Except for the fact that he is driven by this idea. They say, like, you've solved every case.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's driven by, like, that pride where he's just, like, he's dealing with Hugh Jackman and dealing with the family. Like, they do a good job at showing, like, how much this is, like, affecting him.
It's not pride, though.
It's not pride. It's more like, I gotta do this.
He has the connection there. As we hear briefly, the only thing we learn about him,
his dad.
Apart from his facial tics and the fact he's covered in tattoos, and he always wears a collared shirt completely buttoned up, which, because you can see a tattoo on his neck and you see he has tattoos on his knuckles, you assume he is covered in tattoos.
Yeah.
That's why he wears a long sleeve button up that's completely buttoned to his neck. And we learn he came from a boys' home.
Right, because his dad shot himself, who was a prison guard, right?
No, that was Hugh Jackman.
Oh, you're right. That was Hugh Jackman.
And he inherited that burned out hulk of an apartment building where he keeps pulling in prison. I mean, that's also important.
I was going to say that's important to Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
But you're right, is that Gyllenhaal, the impression you get is that he's had some hard years.
Yeah, and he's really, as a detective, he's incredibly methodical. Like, they don't do the broken genius thing, really. They do a little bit.
Actually, that's another part that I like about this movie is he's not a great detective. Like, he's fine, but he's not like Sherlock fucking Holmes.
No,
like, we're often ahead of him.
A little bit, but it's not anything that he's doing wrong. Like, I disagree that he's not I think he's a very good detective, but he's a good detective in a way that's realistic and not magic.
You're right. He's not a genius. Yeah.
He's just he's methodical to the point of almost being mechanical, except he has these flare-ups of emotion when they, like, get to a suspect or when, like, he finds evidence of the kids or something where it's like, it's clear it's not about his record for him in this. He is trying to find these two kids. Right. Because he probably identifies with this whole situation.
Oh, for sure. I guess what it is that his detective work, like, he misses stuff. You know, there's the part where he's, like, in the house and he doesn't even notice Paul Dano is getting tortured. And so what they're doing is, like, he feels, even though he probably isn't, he feels real. You know what I mean? Like a grounded, like where you watch him and you're like, yeah, I bet this is how detectives work. Like, he's just sort of doing the work. And like he kind of lucks into it at the end. And so, like, it's still movie rules. Like, but it feels as close to a real detective.
Yeah, because he's following, it's not even really luck. It's like, it's an extension of that idea of circumstances you were talking about before. Because of a series of circumstances, Gyllenhaal is very suspicious of Hugh Jackman. He knows he's up to, they never come out and say it, but you can tell he knows he's up to something, and it seems like he's trying to, he still, in his mind, he still has not cleared Hugh Jackman of the actual kidnapping.
Well, yeah, because he's acting like a maniac.
He's acting like a maniac. Exactly. And so
he's following Hugh Jackman. I think it's pretty clear that he suspects Hugh Jackman is on his list.
They just never come out and have him say, I think he might have kidnapped his kid. Like, he never says that.
When he walks into the abandoned house, he says, am I going to find two little girls in here?
Yeah.
And Hugh Jackman just goes, fuck you. Yeah.
It's I like that exchange for a lot of reasons. But, like, it's another example of him just being methodical. Like, you can almost see him checking things off. It's like, well, I've got to clear Hugh Jackman because he's the next person on my list. Obviously, you got to clear the parents first. He's been lying about where he is. He's coming to this abandoned building that he owns, so nobody else can come in here. So yeah, he would ask him, am I going to find these two kids here? So
but he also, he seems, I was going to say, he doesn't really follow that. Like, again, this is kind of where he's like, he doesn't seem like the best cop, because if he did think it was Hugh Jackman or suspected it, you'd think he would turn that building upside down. Like he doesn't.
Well, if you remember why he leaves that building is because he gets a call.
Because he gets a lead.
Polka Dot Man, who
you're right, and then it's like okay, on to something else.
He's the tastiest suspect they have so far because he saw him acting weird at a candlelight vigil and then ran when he tried to talk to him.
Yeah, that does make sense.
And I remember when he goes to the mall, he's like learns that he's been buying a lot of children's clothes of different sizes and has stolen some mannequins. He's like, all right, this guy looks pretty good as a suspect.
We have our murderer, yeah.
So he gets a call that they saw that guy. That's why he hauls ass out of there and sort of forgets about that for a while.
Yeah.
But like when Hugh Jackman, when they come to the hospital after they find the first little girl, they find Terrence Howard and Viola Davis's daughter first. She gets out. She escapes.
Yeah. What's your thought on that? Because it feels like that's almost like it's the implication is almost like they are being rewarded for not torturing.
Possibly.
You know what I mean? Like that's how it's like in I feel like that's the symbolism of that.
I think we're meant to think about that. Yeah.
Yeah. That they get their daughter back. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We're meant to think about that, but like the movie doesn't say it really. And the movie is also saying a lot of things about, not a lot of things, but it has the idea of God and faith is present in the film, and it's not generally a favorable view of it.
No, not at all.
So, I mean, but yes, that idea is for sure there. But like when Hugh Jackman goes running off and doesn't tell anybody where he's going, Gyllenhaal is chasing him like he's a suspect, and then when Jackman gets
like a
because they found a little girl who's like, he immediately tries to ask her, "Where'd you see my daughter? Where'd you see my daughter?" And then he runs off. Seems
the girl
like
says you were there,
and
that's why Hugh Jackman realizes, oh, I was there.
I was it was Melissa Leo, but Gyllenhaal thinks he's going back to his apartment building, so that's where he goes.
Right. Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
I love that because this is such a well put together film.
Because if you think about like
at that this
point,
moment where Gyllenhaal is like, oh, he fucking killed them. I know where he's going.
Yep. Yeah.
He's
that moment.
Going
it's
back
like,
to the house.
He's the only suspect left.
Yep.
Yeah.
So they set that up perfectly where it's like, and then of course he finds Paul Dano.
Yeah.
And of course that creates this perfect gap between Hugh Jackman getting kidnapped and put in a hole and Jake Gyllenhaal showing up because someone has to tell this lady, we found your son. It's perfect.
Yeah.
It's so good. And then, of course, him finding the daughter and hauling ass out of there leaves Hugh Jackman there. So that, like, in his most... that is probably the most likely Hugh Jackman was of getting people's attention, where he was just, he's just there, just injured. But, of course, over time, he loses, energy, and by the time they come back, they could barely hear him.
Yeah, he's in a prison of his own construction.
Yeah,
you see, it all goes back to prisoners.
Yeah, it's so well constructed though in terms of how the plot happens, all the little pieces moving. Like some of it is very much like, perfect timing, but that's all movies.
It is a movie, yeah.
It's just so
delicious. It's by the end of the movie, all of his Hugh Jackman's power and I want to say rage, but it's more about his spiraling when he's losing control. And we learn a little bit about him that like his father committed suicide in front of him and left him this building that he can't do anything with. Like we learn that he doesn't have the money to repair it, so it just sits there. So it's this literal burden that his father has left with him in addition to the mental one. So we kind of get the feeling like this is where his need to be in control of everything at all times probably comes from.
Right.
And so like by the end of the movie, he is so reduced by his own spiraling, by a gap in that armor of what he thought was total control, that he is just in this pit weekly blowing on this tiny whistle he gave to his daughter her emergency whistle that he made her have so that he could keep her safe. So it's so good.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Jake Gyllenhaal did the stuff.
Yeah.
He saved the daughter. He saved the day. Mm-hmm. It's that idea of, he basically Hugh Jackman worked himself into such a fucking tizzy that he caused a problem for the investigation. He became a suspect. He does that thing. Hugh Jackman is not the hero, if people haven't figured this out.
No, he's not.
Like when they first when they find the bloody clothes and they think, oh, she's definitely dead, Hugh Jackman blames Jake Gyllenhaal. He says, you followed me.
Hard to argue with him. Because it's interesting, this story, like we mentioned, it's two different movies, so it's unfolding from two different points of view. And if you think about it from Hugh Jackman's point of view, he's like, I'm doing everything I can. Like I'm
right.
reducing myself to kidnapping and torturing this guy who's barely has the mental capabilities of a child, and this fucking cop is just following me. And then from Gyllenhaal's point of view, Jackman's behaving like a maniac.
Yeah, that's the thing, is he's not right. Hugh Jackman, he is acting suspicious, and the cop is therefore following him.
Yes.
And so, like, he's projecting, like, this is all your fault. And it's like, no, man.
He wouldn't be following you if you weren't keeping a man hostage in your apartment building.
Yeah. So it's Hugh Jackman, it's that need for control, destroying not only him, but like sabotaging the people around him too.
And he's like abandoning, like Maria Bello just spends days. She doesn't know what time it is, like drugged out in bed.
That's the point of the son that because the first scene is him taking his son hunting and telling him about like what it means to be a man or to take care of things, and about what his father told him. And he's passing it on to him. And he's also passing on this dysfunction.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's happening, is we're watching, because we see the son a few times, and the son is just, like, not really a character. He's, like, a witness of it all. And, that's what we're seeing, right? That's the whole point.
He has
of Gyllenhaal with his father or his parents, Hugh Jackman and his father. I do think there's a lot of toxic masculinity here.
Yeah, there's definitely
of the idea of it being
of it.
passed down from generation to generation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do see a little bit of the son, where he has a couple of scenes where we're seeing he's doing what Hugh Jackman should be doing. He's at home comforting the mom. Yeah. He's at home doing the vigils, doing the searches, being with the Terrence Howard and Viola Davis's family. He's doing all the things that Hugh Jackman should be doing, and he gets like one good scene where he finally yells at Jackman because another huge thing that old huge Jackman does is he decides to not tell the wife, the mom, about the bloody clothes. He's like, do not tell your mom about this. I don't believe she's dead. We're gonna find her. And then his son finally says, you're not going out help. You're going out and getting drunk. And we know that that's not really the truth. Like, he's only picking up booze because he wants Gyllenhaal to think that's what he's doing. But it's also, you are doing it. And you're leaving your family twisting in the wind while you're doing it.
It's the idea of like, I don't know about you. I've met people like Hugh Jackman in this, right? It's guys who like grew up with this like manly notion of like, what, especially living in like more country areas.
Yeah.
I've, with hunters and stuff and it's not everybody. It's not everybody who hunts.
No. This is a very specific kind of person.
Yeah. I've also met very masculine acting guys who are balanced, but it's a very specific misconception of masculinity. And like that idea here that like you can't not be in control. You have to drive. It's I'm driving every time. I'm doing this. And the problem is that life, you're not always in control.
Mm-mm.
That's one of the things you have to
rarely in control.
Yeah. It's and so like if a person like that, if you ever see them get sick or like something like this happens, they break. They fundamentally break. They short circuit.
Yeah, they start taking horse medicine, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. and that's what we're showed here, is that Hugh Jackman is so used to being in control that he turns into a fucking baby the moment life does something unexpected that he can't control. And and he has, instead of doing like what the actual thing that this guy should be doing, is taking care of his family, trusting the cops, and accepting the fact that there's nothing he can really do. And I get it. Like, that's
Hard
tremendously
thing.
hard. Yeah.
Hard thing to do.
And that's...
We know he's got... It's not just his pride. We know he has this additional trauma that caused him to develop this personality.
Right.
Where it's like they don't come out and say this, but it's all there in the film, where it's like he saw his dad kill himself. So it's like you can infer that's like, well, his need to be in control springs from that, and like the being out of control puts him right back in that place. And he does not want to be that 15-year-old boy that had to clean up his dad's corpse again.
Right.
Like, yeah, it's so good, Dave.
So good.
It's so good.
It's such a good movie, you guys. It's, man.
Just fucking watch Prisoners, you guys. I don't know. Fucking Roger Deakins shot it. Got an Oscar nom for it.
The Deeks? Really?
The Deeks, yeah. He's a cinematographer.
Apparently Ryan Gosling was going to be Jake Gyllenhaal, but they had just worked on Enemy, and they just like... I guess Gyllenhaal did this movie without an audition, which makes sense.
I could see Ryan Gosling playing that character.
Yeah, you totally could, but luckily you got to.
Yeah, I do. I fucking love Gyllenhaal in this movie. He's so good.
This was a movie this was a script apparently going around for a while. It was gonna have Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale, which honestly I can kind of see that. Christian Bale as the like
cop, right?
Mark Wahlberg, perfect for toxic masculinity.
Mark Wahlberg would have he wouldn't have been as good as Hugh Jackman, but he would have been all right in that role. Like I can clearly see him in that role.
The part I'm not mentioning is that was going to have Bryan Singer directing, so
okay.
dodged a bullet there. But this was a script that has been going around for a while, and for good reason. And it was a lot of people were attached to it at certain points. I mean, I could see why.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everything that happened perfectly.
Yeah, it's a tight script.
Yeah, and it came out so well. Yeah, this movie is... I'm not going to call this movie underrated, but it's like, I feel like people don't think about this movie nearly as much as they should.
Yeah. I think
you
that's
should
accurate.
wake up. Yeah, you should wake up and be thinking about the movie Prisoners every day.
Yeah, I mean it's 9 years old at this point, but I mean, yeah, we can't really call it underrated. It did well. I mean, this is a $100 million movie.
Yeah.
And it got an Oscar nom, so we can't really say it was underrated. But yeah, it feels like it doesn't come up a lot in conversations about Denis Villeneuve, and it's like this is like his best fucking movie. Like this is an incredible film.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of this Blade Runner. I'm trying to think of my favorite ones of his. I really like Enemy, but I understand.
Enemy's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Enemy is fucking weird. You know what's honestly, at this point, lower on the list is Dune. Dune is lower on the list for his films for me. Which that has nothing to do with Dune.
No, Dune's pretty sweet.
Yeah, he's just made better films.
Yeah.
He's made so many better films.
Everyone who has ever made Dune, Dave, has made better films than Dune.
That's true. That is very true.
I don't think that's on them. I think that's on Dune.
Yeah.
But Dune is only going to get as good as Dune can get. That's all I'm going to say.
That's fair.
I do love Dune.
Yeah. Everybody loves Dune.
Everybody loves Dune. It's the motion picture event of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all. That's all I got.
I really don't have anything else to say aside from watch Prisoners, you goofballs.
Yeah.
It's good as shit.
Yeah. And thank you, Ricky Pickles. Ricky Pickles. Or is it Ricky Prickles? Hold on. I think it's Ricky Prickles. I wrote down here Ricky Prickles.
Prickles Pickles.
Honestly,
one of those names was correct.
Ricky Prickles is also pretty good.
Yeah, this is all A-list material.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you for
top tier.
Giving us this list. Other movies on this list was Minority Report. I kind of wanted to do A Cure for Wellness only because that movie is like 3 hours long, and I watched it once, and I'm like, I feel like I'm never gonna watch it again unless someone has to make me.
I've never seen it, so
it's fine.
Yeah, I debated that one, but I also, knowing that it was like 2.5 hours long, it's like, well, if I'm going to spend 2.5 hours watching a movie, I want it to be Prisoners.
Yeah, same here. Crimson Tide was on this list. Man.
Crimson. I could
Sunshine.
Fuck with Crimson Tide. Listen, Dave.
all these were good, but Prisoners won, and I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Ricky Prickles. Listen, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. If you go on there for $5 a month, you get access to a bunch of podcasts like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman and Fox Mulder's a Maniac and Star Trek: The Next Futurama and Spiel Boys.
Delicious.
Yeah, just five of your dollars. Just $5 of your dollars.
5 teeny weeny little bucks.
1 month. Once a month. $5 of your dollars. Check that out.
like
we also watch
week.
movies. Yeah, we watch movies with our patrons every Friday night. And then we have tiers like this where people can, have us review movies or shows or whatever that they pick. So
That
these
they
are
demand.
all things
Yeah.
that they demand. Yeah.
Yeah, go check it out. We've got some tasty tiers over there. We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store. We have all kinds of cool original artwork and designs that you can get on t-shirts, mugs, posters, stickers, all kinds of things. So check that out.
Check it out. Check it out.
Check it out.
Check it out. And watch Prisoners.
And watch Prisoners.
Don't torture Paul Dano.
No, but if you can, trap Hugh Jackman.
Yes. Yeah, you collect the Hugh Jackmans. You got
collect
yourself a little
Hughes.
Wolverine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to collect them.
Mm-hmm. Catch them all.
Yeah, watch out for the claws, though.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, they'll have claws.
Yeah.
The spiky boys.
They bite.